right, we're here at my VermiHut worm tower, and last time we were in here, we did a worm chow experiment. Over here, we had almond flour, coconut flour, lentil beans all pulverized, and this was pine nuts. So this has been 10 days, but let's see where we started and the journey that it took. So that was pretty crazy. We had a little bit of a Yeti growing here and its baby over here. But what I noticed was the pulverized lentils and the coconut went pretty quick. In fact, they almost tied. Maybe the lentils went first. So what I've done is I've created a worm chow, and I use the ingredients that have been doing well in my various experiments. So we have ice cream cone in here. We've got some of the coconut flour in here. We've got some of the lentils in here. We also have some pulverized oats and one more ingredient that maybe I'll remember when we feed. But we have a worm chow finally. So let's get in here and see the last feeding that is right under here. And eventually I'm gonna mix all this in here and hopefully the pine nuts will eventually get eaten. So last time we were in here, we put some blueberries down, some raspberries, a banana peel. In fact, the executive producer, who is my lovely wife, told me to stop because I was just piling in so much food. We even had a little piece of red onion and an odd-shaped carrot top, so we'll see if that's in here. And some apple slices and a lettuce stalk. So in the feeding zone, we are just like totally getting into worm balls here. They are all over whatever food is in there. They're definitely enjoying it. Let me pull down. And you saw in each one of those little days that I showed you, the worms were on the top really attacking. And then when I took the lid off, they would go underneath. But let's see how we're doing under here. And I even put the mango seed down below, and I think I feel that. Yep, on the very bottom. They are all over that and all over the food stuff we had in here. It's been 10 days since we were in here last, so I don't expect to see much. And I don't see that carrot top. It was a big old carrot that had been in there all season long. It had 2 wild carrots coming from it, and the top was just kind of gnarly. And this looks like it was the banana peel that always goes last. They eat the banana real well and the flesh along the peel, but the peel ends up lasting for a while. We also put a lot of cardboard shreds and newspaper shreds on the bottom, and they are consuming that along with the food, so that's fantastic. So I think we've pretty much gone through the whole feeding zone. Nothing too recognizable except for the banana peels and the mango seed, which is expected. So we're going to be able to give another pretty decent feeding, but let's get some of this pine nut goop, whatever you want to call it now after 10 days, mixed in. So here we go. Wow, they are all underneath it. So whatever it's given off, they're pretty happy with because they are underneath this, just lots of them, just a solid amount. Look at that. And these look like majority blue worms with some red wigglers in there too, or a lot of juvenile red wigglers. They kind of look the same as blue worms when they're juveniles, but just a ton of worms in here. I am loving this. Let me go ahead and mix it up some more. There's a bunch in this corner too, which is where we had the almond flour. So kind of the late to get consumed stuff is where the worms are, which makes sense. They are feeding on it now and maybe ignored it at first. And they eventually took down the molds that were growing, so no need to worry if you see mold growing in your worm bin. It's probably actually helpful as the molds are kind of breaking down food also along with the worms. This pine nut is almost like a paste now, just from it decaying and stuff, so maybe the worms will be interested in it. This is looking really good. Really great density of worms in here. And this is 3 layers on here, 3 trays. So there's a lot here, probably 80% are here and another 20% on the next 2 trays. So let's go ahead and lay down our bedding and start feeding. Now I do want to put a lot of bedding in because this tray only ends up being on here about 60 days. And after 60 days, it gets a tray put on it as the top feeding tray. And then after another 60 days, this tray will be harvested. So we want to try and bulk it up pretty high here. And so far, this tray has been on here for about 20 days and it's had 2 feedings. This will be its 3rd. So I'm actually going to start with our new worm chow, and I am pretty excited because it's not just pulverized oats that I've been putting in for 5 months. It's actually a legit worm chow. And next, we're going to put in some raspberries. The worms absolutely go through these. I do not expect to see one bit of this raspberry mush next time we feed, because it's really soft for them and they can get to it super quick. It is a super fast food for them. So here's some of the other food we had in mind. This is a pineapple that was actually grown here in my garden. We've got part of that. We've got some lettuce stalk, which is another fast food. Broccoli, which is kind of in between. We've got some carrot peels, again from the garden, and some strawberries. We've got a banana peel for them. Here's that flesh that I was talking about that they'll take off pretty quick, but then the peel will last long. I'll just kind of put the rest of this in. Pepper tops, strawberries, that kind of thing. So this will be a good feeding form, kind of a medium-sized feeding for about the 4,000 or so worms that we have in here. And then in goes our worm chow. Sorry if I sound a little excited, but this is pretty neat for me to be able to grind up some worm chow. Now, something that is definitely missing from this is the pine nuts. I didn't put that in, and I also didn't put in the almond flour because both of those kind of clumped together and they had mold growing on them. So I may eventually figure out how to put it in the worm chow, but for right now, we're not gonna do anything with that. And then next, we like to put in some coffee grounds, which are just another food source for them. And then finally, we like to add in some pulverized eggshells, which are just grit for them. That's how they digest their food, with gizzards. And I appreciate everybody that talked about their worm chows and how I can get some kind of declumping agent, DE powder, that kind of thing. So thank you very much for sharing your experience with worm chow with me on this last video that we did. I really appreciate it. Maybe we'll put a little bit of bedding on top and then we'll bury it. Oops, I forgot to put in the mango seed. Whoops. Let's go ahead and bury it up. And then of course, on top, we're gonna put some of the worm chow. It's not gonna be an experiment. I'm not gonna check on it every day, but I am gonna do our top feedings with worm chow because I have found that the worms come up and after about 3 days, they take down the worm chow. Now, when I did pulverized oats, it was about 2 or 3 days, so I'm expecting the same with this worm chow because it has all the ingredients that they really went after really quick. So here we go. Now notice I'm just trying to put it on real lightly. You don't really want to clump it up because then it almost becomes like cement and they can't get to it and the moisture absorbs in it. So I'm just trying to put it on really gently and spread it out really well. Everything in moderation with a worm bin. You can put just about anything in a worm bin if you don't put too much of it in there. So there you have it. We have a worm chow. That experiment just totally blew me away. I did not expect to be growing a Yeti in this corner and a baby one in this corner. So that was pretty interesting. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing well. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.